LA Kings fans voice their opinions on coaching decisions, the team's start through 8 games, Adrian Kempe's contract, and more on this fan feedback edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code Locked On NHL. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years. I'm also one of the co-hosts of Locked On NHL Game Night, a nightly recap of the night in the NHL podcast and YouTube show. And I'm a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. It is time for another Kings fan feedback show. We had a lot of emails this week. I'm going to try and get through all of them, and I did have to edit some of them down a bit to try and make sure we get all of them in. So I hope you guys can understand that. I appreciate all of your emails. Let's get right into it. We start with Orlando in LA, and he asks, why are you so shocked Alex Laferriere was moved to center? Yes, everyone knows he doesn't have the experience, but it's been something the coaches and Laferriere himself have talked about doing. Look at Connor Doyle's article in the Hockey News, August 10th, 2025. He also quotes Alex Laferriere about the topic from his media availability on August the 6th, 2025. And that was Orlando in LA. Yes, I know it's been talked about, but I also think it's pretty clear that they were talking about it as something down the road. Not now. And I get that circumstances changed when Anze Kopitar got hurt, but I just think putting Alex Laferriere in that position was asking a bit much of him. Now, I think he did respond about as well as he could be expected to, so credit to him for that. And who knows if my idea of having Alex Turcotte get a chance in the top 6 would work or not, but at least he has experience playing the center position at the NHL level, so that seemed to make more sense to me. But that is why I was surprised by the move. This comes from Joey Welcher. He says he's a hardcore Kings fan since he was 12 years old, and this is his first email. So, Joey, thanks for checking in. He says, can we review Drew's performance in the first 9 or 10 games? To me, and to my very salty eyes, Drew doesn't seem on his game yet, and I know that maybe he has some numbers, but I'm not sure why he's playing the most minutes. But man, there's something in his stride. There's something in his eyes on his face. He doesn't look right. Take a look at the footage before he got hurt and take a look at footage from last game and tell me he's the same player. As far as Jim Hiller goes, his mistakes are sticking out like a sore thumb right now, almost a tenth of the way through the regular season, and he's putting Laferriere on the first line. That brings me to player development, something I think Hiller knows a little about. I think he's really awful at it, and you can see this clearly by the way he's treating defenseman Brandt Clarke. Are we going to wait until the season is over or until the All-Star break to start looking for a coach? I can see it now. We're going to blame the defense the whole time until we finally figure out Hiller is not the guy. And there goes the season, and probably there goes the playoff run. Love the show. Keep it up. You're doing awesome. And that was Joey in Parts Unknown. Well, I'll be honest with you, Joey. I don't really have an issue with the way Drew Doughty has played so far this year. My only issue is that I think he plays a little too much. And I don't understand why we can't cut back on Drew's minutes and keep him maybe a little bit fresher down the stretch and into the playoffs, hopefully, and also increase Brandt Clarke's minutes so that he gains experience, so he's better prepared if we hopefully make it into the playoffs. As for, you mentioned, or was it you or the previous email? It was a previous email. I mentioned our guest this week, Connor Doyle of the Hockey News. He pointed out this week when we spoke with him that it's pretty obvious Jim Hiller leans on his veterans, probably too much. As fans, we're not always going to agree with what the head coach does, but to me, with Hiller, the biggest thing is, when it's all said and done, did he learn from what happened in the playoffs last season? And ultimately, we're not going to know that until we see how he coaches in the playoffs. Hopefully he gets the chance, and hopefully it turns out better. We shall see. Nick in Winnipeg checks in. He says a couple of things I'd like to say this week. Number one, after the Pittsburgh game, I've lost faith in Anton Forsberg for the time being. In a game we needed to win in order to get back on track, he quite frankly blew it for us. I wholeheartedly believe Ed and Brea could have stopped all three of those shots that went in. Let's not get crazy here, unless we're playing the Ducks. Number two, to slightly twist a Michael Scott quote, if I was in a room with John Scott, Paul Bissonnette, and Cody Ceci, and I had to cut two players, I would cut Cody Ceci twice, end quote. I can't take much more of having to watch Ceci. Even worse, Hiller recognized that Ceci is struggling so much that he had to move Mikey Anderson to our third pair. In reality, I do believe we will figure all this out soon, but right now it's hard not to be a little concerned watching this Ken Holland production. Love what you do, Eddie, and thanks for all of the content you give us each week. Go Kings, go. Nick in Winnipeg. Well, thank you, Nick. Well, Forsberg at least did bounce back against Carolina, but yes, that Pittsburgh game was not a NHL level performance. I still don't think Ed and Brea could have stopped any of those shots. The Kings will play back-to-back over the weekend, so we're going to see Forsberg either Saturday against Nashville or Sunday against Chicago. We'll see how he does there. I personally would go with Kemper against the Blackhawks and Forsberg against the Predators, but we'll see. I guess it doesn't really matter when it's all said and done. Neither of those teams are, measurably above the other. So whatever they decide to do, hopefully we just see two good goaltending performances. As far as Cody Ceci goes, I know he is a fun punching bag for some people. I actually thought he played a pretty good game against Dallas, and not just because he scored a goal. I thought he played a pretty good defensive game. And as you said, they are figuring it out. Let's give him some more time. I do think the switch for Brian Dumoulin to the top pairing and Mikey Anderson to the third pairing, I do think that has worked so far in a short amount of time. Brian in Mission Viejo checks and he says, it would be our luck that the first game Corey Perry plays with us, we win. I actually got excited and cheered when Perry scored, but I felt so dirty. Like Jim Carrey and Ace Ventura Pet Detective, I wanted to burn my clothes and cry in the shower. At least he's doing what he's paid to do, and that's all we can ask of him. At this rate, Kempe is going to ask for $12 million if he keeps scoring game-winning goals for us every overtime, and he would be worth it. Pay the man already, Ken. The longer you wait, the more valuable he becomes to the rest of the league. Fun fact, the most games the Kings ever played to start a season before they won in regulation was 9. The 10th game, they won 5-3 against the Jets. I'm all for the Kings breaking records, but this one is one I'll be okay with them not breaking. Go Kings, go. And that was Brian in Mission Viejo. And Robert Guzzi Gabriel in West Covina also wanted to talk about Corey Perry. He says, just witnessed Perry's first goal as a King, and of course, like true Perry fashion, he scores from the paint. Since I still have a tough time clapping for him, I gave Perry a few well-deserved head nods. My wife was looking at me and I explained, I told Eddie and the rest of the everydayers, I'll give Perry a few head nods of approval if he scores, but I won't clap for him just yet. Anyway, hope Kings can win their first game in regulation and keep the good times rolling with more wins. Thanks for everything you do. Go Kings, go, go Rain, go. And that was Ruben in West Covina. I said our last show, I cheered when Corey Perry scored, and maybe if we were playing better, maybe I wouldn't have cheered as much, but right now I just feel like we are not in a position to turn up our nose at any goals and any wins that the Kings have right now, even if Corey Perry is the one scoring the goals. I guess I'm kind of already over it, to be honest with you. That didn't take long. Some Kings fans want to blow up the Kings. That's next on Locked In Elite Kings, your team every day. Let's be real, making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress, I'm tired, or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rugiet makes it easy to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online, so no awkward waiting rooms or in-person appointments. If prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. The process is fast, simple, and private, and it's all handled by real doctors. It's about convenience, connection, and getting back to the moments that matter. Visit Rugiet.com/LockedOnNHL. That's RUGIETT.com/LockedOnNHL. You'll get 15% off your first order. Rugiet.com/LockedOnNHL. RUGIETT. Don't forget to use our code LockedOnNHL so they know we sent you. Rugiet. Stop making excuses and start making moves. And of course, hockey season is here and nothing beats the in-arena experience. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache between waiting in queues, surprising fees and prices that jump right before you check out. It's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. That's where Gametime comes in, the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. I love that what you see is what you pay for, no hidden fees at checkout. Plus, you see the view you're going to get when you buy your tickets using their in-app seat view feature. Their zone deals are a game changer. You pick the section, Gametime picks the seats, and you save big. You can even find NHL tickets for under $25. Take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. All right. This comes from Doug in Prescott. I assume it's Prescott, Arizona, or maybe Prescott. Anyway, he says almost every day are here. Thank you, Doug. The Kings had a great opportunity to change the franchise's direction when Blake resigned, but instead doubled on a failed philosophy in the offseason. Getting older and slower with several bad contracts is a recipe for failure. Until Luke, who I loved as a player, is replaced along with the rest of the front office, especially Yannetti, and of course our overmatched coach, nothing will change. Hiller's refusal to play and develop players is stifling our young talent. Clark is the one who gets the most attention, but what about Turcotte? Why is 8-goal Deneau getting quality minutes when he should be playing about 15 as a third-line checking center? He has 8 goals in the last 96 regular season games and 1 power play goal in the last 140. Wouldn't Turcotte be a better choice than Laffy as temporary 1C until Kopi gets back? I know this will be an unpopular opinion, but I have to wonder if the PLD experiment would have been successful if Deneau had been demoted to 3C at the time. I guess we'll never know. Keep up the good work. That was Doug in Prescott. Well, I got to say, first off, I completely disagree about getting rid of Mark Yannetti, the Kings director of scouting. I think he's very good at his job, and I think he would get hired immediately by another team if the Kings let him go. As for Philip Deneau, I mean, he's a solid third-line center. The goals are not where his value is. It's playing defense. It's doing other things. And I've made it very clear that I would have preferred to see Alex Turcotte get that chance at being a top six center with Kopitar out of the lineup. We aren't going to know if this philosophy is a success or a failure until the playoffs, as far as what the Kings have done in the offseason. Not to suggest you can't have an opinion about it now. You absolutely can. I get the skepticism. I also get why, they're taking another swing at it, so to speak, in Anze Kopitar's final season. Drew from Anaheim checks in. He says, I just love that we will be begging for an opportunity to rebuild with fresh talent and miss the opportunity yet again because management has decided to sign a bunch of dead horses instead of giving real lifelong fans something to finally look forward to. The only logical move would have been to let Kempe walk, forego CC, forego Perry, trade Doughty, and salute King Kopi on his way out, and start scouting for fitting trades and fresh blood from the all the crowded college and major minor leagues. Most people can see that this is not the same league from 2012 or 2014, and I'm almost certain we're about to let a bunch of new stars slip by trying to be greedy instead of developing the new guys for the future. Go Kings, go, fingers crossed. Thanks for the show. And that was Drew in Anaheim. Okay, so the Kings, I'm not naive to the playoff disappointments, but at the same time, the Kings did tie a franchise record for wins and points in a season last year. And no one's going to blow that team up after they do that, even with not having a first-round playoff win since 2014, which is terrible. But I mean, that's just not going to happen. And I wouldn't expect them to do that. And look, many people are of the opinion that this roster is not good enough to compete for a Stanley Cup. That's not an outrageous opinion to have, but I think it's pretty outrageous to think that this Kings organization is somehow like a joke or one of the worst in hockey or something like that. It's not that. It may not be what we want it to be, but it's also not as awful as a lot of people, I think, are making it out to be. Brian in Huntington Beach says, in your opinion, how do the Kings rank in terms of developing prospects? To me, it seems as if other teams show a lot more trust in their young players and allow them to develop their abilities by letting them make mistakes and placing them in various game situations. On the flip side, the Kings do a lot of hand-holding and want their prospects playing like veterans from the get-go. Any mistakes will lead to benching or diminished minutes. I could be wrong, but it just seems as if the organization wastes a lot of talent while other teams are more effective in their development of prospects. Thanks for another great week of shows. And that was Brian in Huntington Beach. I think we're talking about maybe two different things here. I think when you talk about an organization developing prospects, that's what they do to get a player to the NHL. Like Brandt Clarke isn't a developing prospect anymore. He is an NHL player now. As far as his development as an NHL player, that's a coaching thing. That's not a organization development type thing. That's a different thing, right? We're talking about getting players ready for the NHL by, where you play them, how you play them. But once they get to the NHL, those are NHL players now. Brandt Clarke is an NHL player. So the way he's being handled, that's not an organization development thing. That's a coaching thing. So I think there's two different conversations as far as what those two things are. I think the Kings are fine at developing players to get them to the NHL level. I don't think they're great, but I don't think they're terrible. I think they're probably good. But the issues that we're having right now, I think, to me, those are coaching decisions. John, previously in Tokyo, now in Greensboro, North Carolina, says, thanks for addressing my question last week. I would argue, however, that your initial statement that the team is essentially the same is proof that, in fact, they are not as good as last season. This would be based on the notion that if you are not getting better, you are getting worse. The other division opponents certainly improved, maybe not the Sharks early on. So by that reasoning, the Kings have automatically taken a step back. And I think that they lost more talent than they brought in. So I fundamentally disagree that they are mostly unchanged from last season. I see a collection of guys. I am just not impressed. It'll be hard enough to even crack a smile when Perry scores, but frankly, I don't think I'll have to face that situation too often. The division is improved, but the Kings have taken a step back. Why are you so certain this is a playoff team? And that was John in Greensboro. I will have to say, I have never understood that statement, and I've heard other people say it before. If you're not getting better, you're getting worse. That makes zero sense to me. Now, if you want to say the division has gotten better and the Kings have been the same, so that makes them worse, then I understand that. But as for the Kings offseason, I've talked about it before. I think they slightly upgraded their forward group. I think they took a slight step back defensively. Add it all up, it's a different group, but about the same, in my opinion. Now, I'm not certain the Kings will make the playoffs at this point. They have not been as good as I thought they would be. They are looking a little better of late. There's still work to be done, and it's also a long season, so we'll see how it works out. Scott in Simi Valley says, hi, Eddie, and congrats to the guys for 2 gritty overtime wins to kick off the road trip. He says, though the latest disappointing playoff loss, questionable management decisions over the offseason, and the Kings' rough start, it never escapes me that this team still has tons of character and lots of good players. The worm factor is real, and if Kemper can keep playing great and we get a few bounces, I can see them getting through a round or two of the playoffs. A couple of things, though, that they are annoying as heck. Please, Ken Holland, just sign Juice already, and please, Kim Hiller, give Clarkey 20 minutes per game. Thanks for the great shows, Eddie, and go Kings go. And that was Scott in Simi Valley. A little bit of optimism from Scott on that one. A little refreshing. Yes, the Kings have a lot of work to do, but the last 2 games do make me feel a little bit better, but got to keep it going. Amen and hallelujah to them signing Juice and, yes, playing Clarke more. I think most people agree on those 2 things. Adam in Ottawa says, happy with the wins, but what is going on with these lines? Like all Kings fans, I love Laffy, but the idea that you could just make a winger into a center is truly crazy. LaFerrier's hard work has created some goals, one disallowed, and I fear that is blinding the coach to the reality that the line has very little chemistry. What does Turcotte have to do to get a shot? Armia took some terrible penalties and there was zero consequence. Turcotte has been benched for far less. Seems like his size, talking about Turcotte, has Hiller seeing him the way he saw Spence. Everything looks disjointed at the moment, and the power play and overtimes are our only chances to score. To me, it shows two things. One, we have a coach that is very stubborn, even though the knock used to be that he challenged things too often or changed things too often. Now he seems to stick to his bad ideas. And number two, for a team that was thought to have the best prospect pool a few years ago, we now have so little depth that one injury to a player we need to prepare to be without anyway has thrown the team completely out of whack. Can't question the heart as the team is grinding out wins, and thank God for Kemper. Keep up the good work, Eddie. Go Kings, go. And that was Adam in Ottawa. I think I've made my thoughts very clear on Alex Turcotte getting a shot. As for what he needs to do to get a shot, I don't know the answer to that question. It seemed like with the Kopitar injury, it was a perfect opportunity to give Turcotte a shot to see what he could do with it and prove or disprove Jim Hiller or me as far as our opinions of what should be done there. But I will say Jim Hiller is a little odd in that at times he seems very open-minded and at times he doesn't. The good news is that Anze Kopitar should be returning soon, and we won't have to worry about where Alex Laferriere is playing. Actually, that's not true because I'd like him to be back on the second line and Joel Armia down on the fourth line. So I guess that's not true. Kings fans are chiming in on ads, proper celebrations, and the World Series. That's next on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. The NFL season's here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to your Sunday. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Our next email comes from Eric in West Covina. He says, slightly unrelated topic, but I feel like the game is so full of ads now, it's hard to watch on TV. From the ads on the players to the digital ads to the boards, the ice, as well as the actual ads on the ice, this has gotten way too out of hand. Not to mention, if there was a whistle, they'll begin a short ad next to the broadcast until play resumes. I understand that the revenue will help improve players' salaries, but at some point the league and owners need to stop. I feel like I'm watching more ads than hockey now. Is it just me that feels this way? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for all your hard work. Go Kings, go. P.S. Whenever I see an ad such as Mercury Insurance on the jersey, it makes me less that I want to use that product or service. And that is Eric in West Covina. Well, Eric, I mean, you're entitled to feel any way you want about the ads. For me personally, it doesn't bother me. Even the moving ads on the boards aren't a distraction for me. I don't know. I just tune it out. But I can tell you this, it's not going to go backwards. It will only go forwards. And, you know, this is a big part of the league and their broadcast partners making money. I hated the ads on the jerseys and the helmets, but I have to say I've kind of gotten used to it. I just hope it doesn't expand anymore, but it probably will. I just hope it's never like, you know, those European, if you've seen European hockey teams, it's like, they're like a NASCAR. Like there's so many ads on it. You don't even, it's insane. I hope we never get to that point, or if we do, I'll be long gone by then. But yeah, I'm okay with the ads. It's just a reality, unfortunately. And I'm sorry it takes away from your viewing experience. Bob Harold in Portland, Oregon says, I admit I'm old and perhaps oversensitive to the current professional situation where NFL players celebrate a tackle like they won the Super Bowl and pro baseball players have a dance or similar to celebrate each hit. I'm not a fan of any celebration with the exception of a win or extraordinary performance. And let me state, I've been a Kings fan since 1970, and I have been through all the ups and downs over those 50 years. And yes, I celebrate each win and certainly the Stanley Cups that my beloved Kings earned some years ago. But I also must say that Adrian Kempe's upside down hook 'em horns sign in the face of the Dallas fans after the winning goal is something I just can't endorse. I celebrate the win for sure, but an in-your-face demonstration lacks class and integrity in my opinion. Hank Aaron was interviewed a few years ago. He said he would never do such a thing as it was disrespectful to the opposition and their fans. I'm with Hank. I love your podcast, Eddie. Keep up the great work. Not a fan of the taunting organ when an opposing goalie gives up a goal in our barn either. And that was Bob in Portland. That's kind of funny because I consider myself old school, but I actually have become more tolerant of the celebration and things like that, especially in baseball. Like if they hit a home run and they want to do a little peacocking, I'm all for it. The Kempe thing of the horns was a little odd. I do like when he points though, when he scores that thing. It's a bow and arrow thing. Somebody told me or whatever. I don't, shushing the crowd. I don't have a problem with that. The goal thing at the arena, whatever. There's only one thing that they do in the arena, and I know Mikey Alexander does listen to this podcast. The only thing that the arena that I just roll my eyes out at every time is when they dress somebody up in a opposing team's jersey, and then Bailey comes and dumps something on him. It's so fake, and it's so obvious that it's not. It's staged. It's so lame. That's the only thing I kind of roll my eyes at. Kurt in Your Belinda says, I was just wondering, I heard you earlier in the week ask your guest about why free agents don't sign with the Kings. I was wondering if the Ducks or Sharks have any big free agent signings in their franchise's history. Maybe it's California. Go Kings, go. Kurt, Your Belinda, fair point. The Sharks really haven't had any big-time free agent signings for their organization either, although they haven't been around as long as the Kings. The Ducks did get Hall of Fame defenseman Scott Niedermayer, and he helped them win a cup. So that was a pretty big free agent signing for them. But I would also argue I think LA is different than San Jose or Anaheim. To me, the Kings should be better at landing big-time free agents than they are. But as you mentioned, state tax in California is obviously very high, and I do think that is part of the equation with it. Danny in Toronto says, just watched a great game by our boys. We need to pull the trigger on Kempe and pay him 2 points, and that goal was a beauty. By the way, how about them Jays? I was at Rogers Center last night, and it was an epic moment when Springer hit that homer. Also note, the Jays paid Vladdy, and it was worth it. Kempe needs to get paid. Should be a final run, or should be a fun final. I'm hoping for the best versus the Dodgers. Jays in 7, and it was Danny in Toronto. And again, amen on paying Adrian Kempe. Andy in Guelph checks in. He says, I'm liking the resilience I've seen the last couple of games. I think they will be okay, but I do wish they had a more mobile defense. Overall, with Kopi coming back, I think they're okay, and looking forward to seeing him in Toronto one last time. As for Kempe, pay the man. Again, I'm sorry, but go Jays, go. If I was a betting man, I'd say Dodgers in 6, but the Jays are Canada's team, so I'm going to believe. Happy weekend, go Kings, go. And that was Andy in Guelph. I would love, we talked about this on our LA Kings Extra fan chat. I would love to see people start taking signs to the arena that say, pay Kempe on him, or pay Juice, or pay number 9 or something. I'd love to see fans start to do that, assuming you're able to take signs into the arena. I assume you are. I've never done it because I'm usually in the press box, but I'd love to see fans start bringing those kind of signs to the arena to show support, because it seems like everyone's pretty universal on this. Ed in Brea is going to close us out. He says, first off, did I mention the Kings would start winning when Corey Perry returned to the lineup? And they have so far. So you say a lot of things, though, Ed, admittedly. Solid defense makes the goaltending easier, and Kemper has won his last 2. He is returning to his Vezina form at the moment with solid saves. He's getting back his game. Forsberg needs to step up when he starts. Kings need regulation wins immediately. All the Kings wins so far have been in overtime. However, regulation wins are more important because those are the first tiebreakers in seeding for the standings. Good to see John Kelly get his tribute in St. Louis. I'm sure it was a very emotional moment for him after he spent so much time, and also has his father's banner hanging in the arena, much like Bob Miller with the Kings. The Kings played the Penguins, Blues, and Stars, formerly North Stars. They played 3 of their fellow 1967 expansion-era rivals. They are considered the second 6 in NHL record books. Who are the rest of the class? Hint, one of them is not operational, and the other's in the Eastern Conference. One final note, I have the Dodgers losing to Drew Doughty's Toronto Blue Jays in 6 games. Keep up the good work. Go Kings, go. Ed in Brea. As for your, I guess, trivia question, Ed, the original expansion class, as you mentioned, Kings, Blues, North Stars, Penguins. The Eastern Conference team is the Flyers, and the team that is no longer in existence is the Oakland / California Golden Seals. So there's your answer. Thank you to everyone who took the time to email this week. The show is literally not possible without you participating. So thank you all for that. If you would like to get an email in for a future show for any reason, fan feedback show or anything else, the email address is lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE. And if you're watching on YouTube, we love it when you leave your comments in the comments section. Our next show will be following the Kings Predators game coming up on Friday. Complete recap and analysis of that. And the Kings are also playing on Sunday. Blackhawks in Chicago is the opponent. And our Monday show will be a recap of that game. I'd love for you to stay interactive with the show on social media, X, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We're at Locked On LA Kings. And if you're interested in some extra Kings coverage, send me an email, lakingsextra@gmail.com. We'll give you the information on that. All right, I can take a breath now. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thanks for listening and watching Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We will talk to you next time. And as always, go Kings, go.